Okay, let's finish off our chiseled ice text effect here. Hopefully you're enjoying this. I'm going to take the original ice layer, the original text layer, and I'm going to duplicate them twice. So I'm going to select them there and then drag them down to the new layer icon, and I'm going to do that twice. Okay, great. So now we have 2 copies there. Again, we're getting those effects and those filters and so on coming through, the blending modes and so on. I'm going to take the topmost layer, the I guess you could say the original copy, ice copy there, and I'm going to reduce down his opacity down to maybe about 50%, somewhere in there. That looks good. Okay, now I'm going to select all of my text layers. So the ice copy and all of the additional copies and the original. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the top here, hold down Shift and grab the last ice layer, and I want to group them. So I'm going to hit Control G or Command G. And what that does is that groups all of the ice layers into a layer group. Perfect. I'm going to take my layer group and I'm going to duplicate him once again by dragging him down to the new layer icon down on the bottom. So now we have an exact duplicate. I'm going to take this duplicate, the group 1 copy, and I'm going to flip them. So what I want to do here is I want to create almost like a reflection so that it looks like the ice is actually reflecting beneath it. So I'm going to head to the Edit menu and then down to Transform and then Flip Vertical, just like that. And then what I'll do is I'll drag the layer group down, something like this. You might want to hold down Shift so that you move it perfectly straight, something like that. That looks great. All right, now the next thing that I want to do to finish this off here is I want to apply a layer mask to the entire group 1 copy layer group. That was a mouthful. And I want to try and fade it off a little bit. So I'm going to click on the layer mask icon down at the bottom here, this guy right here. Make sure black is in the foreground there, down at the bottom of your toolbox. And I'm going to go and grab my paintbrush tool out of the toolbox. Now, if you recall from a previous exercise, we went and loaded in the calligraphic brush set. I want to now switch Photoshop back to the original default set of brushes. So up on the options bar, I've obviously dropped down the preset window. I'm going to flip into this flyout menu here, and I'm just going to say Reset Brushes, and then I'll click on OK, and that brings me back to where you and I started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a fairly large, soft-edged brush there. So the hardness is set to 0. I'm going to crank the size up. I'm not exactly sure how large I want this guy just yet. Maybe a little bit larger than that. Maybe about 150 or so, something like that. Hit enter to lock that in. You might want to increase or decrease the size of your brush. Again, just use your square bracket keys. And all I want to do is just kind of fade off the sort of the bottom edge, if you will, of my reflected text, maybe something like that. Perfect. Okay, great. To finish off here, what you may want to do is you might want to adjust the opacity of your group that's sitting over inside the layers palette there. Or what you may want to do is try and apply some different blending modes. Again, just to get sort of this reflection sort of effect happening here. There we go. Something like that looks okay. Or right now I'm set to pass through. Maybe I could try perhaps overlay or, something like this, right? You can fiddle with that. I'll leave it up to you to fiddle around. I think I'm going to leave mine like that. But there you go. There's piling on a whole bunch of filters, a couple of different neat effects there. You might even want to go so far as to apply a layer style as well. Maybe a couple of different layer effects. Maybe you want to try some inner glows or some gradient overlays or something like that. But I think I'm going to leave mine the way it looks here. That looks pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that. So there you go. Chiseled Ice.